mad, isn't it, how old people are living till these days?
Yeah.
My dad, every time he shows up at my door, he's like, oh, yeah, my shoulders are killing and my arm's killing. I'm 64 now, I was like, mate, you are only like a third of the way through your life.
Exactly. You still got another fucking 30 years to go. Another third of your life to go, mate. Like.
Yeah, if you're hoping for 10 years, forget about it. Not these days, Mara.
Buckle up, like. Hello and welcome all into the MO podcast. As always, you're here with me, Consummation,
and Maya.
And today we are going to be doing the final third part of our Terri Hoffman journey. Now, this one was horrible, not gonna lie. This is the worst one of the three, so if you've listened to the previous two and you don't want to go any further, I wouldn't blame you. I'm going to put a trigger warning out there because we do talk about suicides quite a lot in this one. They're not really suicides, but just so.
I mean, if you speak to Google Bard says Terri had it the worst out of everyone.
I know, she was a stand-up comedian.
She was a strong woman and a prankster. She was a bit of a prankster. Yeah, she loved a good joke.
Well, of course she did. Jesus. But before we dive in, once again, just if you're listening to this, watching this either on YouTube or Spotify, like and subscribe. Give us a rating over on Spotify. We'd really appreciate it. It's we're doing a lot, really, really well at the minute, and we just want to try and continue that momentum. That's all down to you guys out there, so thank you very much for that. But without further ado, we will crack into this. Now, Terri Hoffman had set up a group of like-minded people that she presided over and led. Basically, she was a cult leader in the late 60s and early 70s.
You're going to say something else?
Well, and that other C word. In the late 60s and 70s. But after one of her ex-husbands committed suicide and one of her head disciples drove off a cliff, both of whom left a substantial amount of money to Hoffman in their wills, her cult started to lose all kudos it had gained. It stopped growing, but there's always rubes that are there to be exploited and estates to be stolen. And 7 more people associated with Hoffman and the conscious development of mind and body cult would lose their lives over the coming years. Amazingly,
I'm going right to Google.
Amazingly, it would be 6 years and another ex-husband later that death visited Hoffman and the conscious development movement. Now, I'm going to go through these chronologically of their deaths, but there's a lot of going forward, jumping back, so just try. It's going to be a little bit
like the worst book ever.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it is one of them, like the Bible.
Do you ever think like some of Terri's friends might have been like, oh, my heart absolutely goes out to this woman. I mean, her husbands, she just has absolutely no luck with them whatsoever. She must be so lonely, like the heartache she must be going through. It just must be, I wish I could do something for her, like give her money or something, or like my house, maybe.
Yeah, I think this was the point as she sat in Sandy Cleaver's house asking her why she was late on the rent again that month, on her throne and all
in her own house.
All the jewellery around her.
Jewellery.
So Robin Otset had been part of Hoffman's cult since 1974 and had even used them in her professional life as a school counsellor. She wrote a curricula for troubled teens in the Dallas school district area, and she was one of the more highly educated people that was associated with this cult. Now, yeah.
That's worrying.
Yeah. So after Sandy had taken a nosedive off the side of a mountain, Robin steps up in her to replace her as the head disciple within the cult's hierarchy. And amazingly enough, she was no less devoted to Hoffman. Her life was described as being dominated by Terri's teachings. She had also heavily invested in Hoffman's jewellery and crystals, having filled her house out with them.
What?
She also had something that you're going to love all dotted around her house. She had friendly gnome-like doll figurines.
I hate that on so many levels.
Yeah.
So many levels.
No idea what that's about.
I hate gnomes. I hate clutter. I hate gnomes that pretend to be friendly because they're fucking not. I'm not having it.
They're always
so
watching.
friendly faced little gnomes that are dotted all around her house. It's like my idea of the portal directly to fucking hell. Like, that's where I'm going if I don't stop drinking. That is where the Lord himself is sending me.
A gnome-filled house.
A gnome-filled bed sit. I can't even leave the room. I can't put them in a different room. And I can never throw them out of a window. The windows don't open. The door doesn't open. I just have to sit, and the lights don't go off.
You've got
and I can't close my eyes because I've got them matchsticks hold my eyelids open all the time. I've just got to sit and look at them all day long, like for eternity.
You've got a couple around the sink with fishing rods.
Just don't. Oh, Lord, no.
But Robin was at the forefront of the Black Lord battles, and she'd crafted...
She thinks.
But yeah, I mean, she thought this because she crafted a protective copper shield that she kept under her bed to protect her from the Black Lords when she was sleeping. Now...
Copper?
Yeah, apparently it was a resistant metal, so to the Black Lord's juju, so...
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
Is that just because it's cheap?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
This would prove unsuccessful because A, bullshit, innit? Like,
I was going to say there was no Black Lords.
Yeah. And B, the enigmatic Black Lords would eventually be Robin's undoing. In 1986, in another twist of Hoffman's hornswoggling of her students, she had set up Robin in a romantic tryst with a CIA agent called George Jeffrey. Yeah.
How exciting.
Indeed. Now, George was a fierce American patriot who Hoffman was training to protect Americans by using her knowledge of the Ashak records. George was also...
No wonder JFK was assassinated.
Yeah, but...
I know, I'm wrong time frame, but you get what I'm coming from.
Yeah. I mean, also, George was not real, with Hoffman describing him as a dematerialized government agent and supernatural.
Right, okay. So, I got a blind date for you. Wait for it. He's a CIA agent. He's 6'7", built like a brick shit house. He's got abs on abs. Honestly, you could grate cheese on his abs. Slight stubble, tanned. It's deep, sexy voice. Oh, great. When can I meet him? He's been standing next to you the whole time.
Yeah. Turn round.
Really? The thing is, he's on a different plane.
You're never going to believe this, but...
Yeah. If you buy more of my jewellery...
Yeah.
You'll be able to see him, and honestly, you are missing out. Honestly, when he turn around, love, the buns on that. If you could see it, honestly, you'd be losing your mind right now. Take my money.
Yeah.
Give me the bracelets and the jewelry and the things.
Yeah, I mean, most rational people would see this as a setback, but Robin detailed in her journals of romantic dinners, heart-to-heart talks, and even a camping trip that she took with George. Now, as much as this was a fairy tale to Robin, the couple could never marry because of national security.
Not being real?
No,
All right,
no,
okay.
that wasn't even top 10. It was national security.
His job won't allow it.
Yeah.
You know, it could put me at risk.
Yeah.
Put me at risk. Not the fact that he doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah. I think at this point, Hoffman is just shooting fish in a barrel, to be quite honest with you. She's not even trying anymore.
I was going to say, like, kudos to her that this actually fucking washed with people, because how dumb are these people to just... Well, actually, I live with the man of my dreams. Yeah, we go on lots of, like, mini breaks together, lots of holidays. Oh, can I meet him? No, because he's invisible. How do you know he exists? Because Terry told me so.
We go out for romantic dinners all the time, but he never picks up the fucking bill. I mean... That is a red flag.
He doesn't eat very much either. He says he has to like look out for his figure and stuff, you know. So he usually has a spoonful and then the rest just goes to waste. And sometimes the waiter comes over and the waiter's like, "Oh, are you gonna drink his?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna drink his."
Oh, that's why you're talking to yourself all alone at the table. You're drinking for two. Okay, I understand now.
And it's not even a case of, you know, like, you know, when you genuinely... Sometimes you actually genuinely get stood up, but sometimes you're genuinely there on your own and you've got two drinks and you're just like, I don't want to look like a plunky, so I'll just put that one there. And you know fine well the waiter knows exactly what you're doing, and the waiter comes over and you're like, they're running late.
Yeah.
Yeah, so late they're never going to show because they weren't invited.
Yeah.
This is a show for you. Yeah. I wish I was... did they have CCTV back? They did, kind of. Maybe in the 80s have CCTV?
Yeah.
I would have paid to see that.
I wonder if she went out a lot with him. I mean, a camping trip, yeah, fine. But if she went out to, like, the Ivy or whatever, and she just sat there. Reservation for
just
two?
They just laughing to herself all day.
Yeah.
People behind the bar going, she had way too much before she even came in. Next time, don't let her in.
Yeah, why were you even serving her?
Yeah.
So,
how much have you had, love?
Amazingly...
With my fiance.
You should see him. I wish I could. Apparently, he's... Woo!
These fucking idiots.
So, amazingly enough, Robin fell into depression by the end of 1986. Now, she blamed this on non-physical bodies. Astral, mental, and physical. And when
she wasn't getting any, was she? That's not going to help.
Yeah. But when a close friend, Tamara Taylor, wrote to her claiming that Robin's non-physical bodies were causing her issues in her own life and she would have to cut contact with her, it really didn't help. By April 1987, Robin was under the impression that Tammy's CIA lover, who was also make-believe, had threatened her life. He was called Martin, and apparently Martin mentally said if anything happened to Tammy with my energies, he would kill me. Yeah.
I wish I had such a like inventive and exciting imaginary.
Just imagine if you could make people believe this. How much this is like Harry Potter shit. This, man, like it's Gandalf shit. This.
Mate, to be fair, right, the way TikTok's going now, I feel like probably we could make this work. This is a venture that I think we should maybe look into. I'll make some jewellery.
Yeah.
You plug it.
Click the link below to join our cult.
Yeah, I mean, the kids nowadays, they fall for fucking anything, so...
Yeah.
Have you heard them all now that they've got the tick where they say beans? Beans.
No.
Beans, Heinz.
Well, of course it does. I mean, everyone knows
that's
that,
spread on TikTok, and now kids have got this tick. It's like a disease that spread through TikTok. So I think we can make this work for us.
Okay, just need some.
We can retire early.
Sound bites, subliminal messaging. That's what we need.
Flash them pictures up.
Yeah.
Now, like in The Exorcist, do that.
Yeah. So, Robin actually wrote Hoffman a letter apologising for her non-physical body's behaviour. And she was regretful that they had led her to be ostracised from the group. On the 19th of April, she told her ex-husband that she had contracted hepatitis from a banana skin.
Okay.
But he convinced her to at least go and see a real doctor and get a real diagnosis. And on the 20th...
convinced her she was nuts.
Yeah. I mean, all these people, it's even... You don't need to be a psychologist to see it, but they all had a mental illness here. And
Quite clearly.
to be honest with you, we shouldn't be making light of it, but there are people out there who are gonna, if you are not well, they are gonna take advantage of you and just try to highlight the depths that someone would sink to manage to do this.
I don't know. I kind of feel like these people probably were just ordinary people who were just really gullible that ended up with mental disorders and mental issues because they were conned into
They were
stuff that wasn't
manipulated
real.
into it and bullied into it, because obviously, like, Hoffman has got a history of, if someone says something bad about her, she will turn them black lords that only she can see onto that person. And this is a case with what happened with Robin here. She was actually told that she was ill, like these things are happening to you, and enough people tell you something, you start believing it.
There's a placebo, definitely.
Yeah.
Like the same sort of thing, like with the Christopher Case thing.
Yeah. If you start believing it and start worrying on it, and even if you don't have, like, if you have undiagnosed anxiety or something undiagnosed in the background, if you start dwelling on something, it'll start playing on your mind, and then it becomes a factor in your life, even though it was never a factor a few months ago. And then you build it there from yourself, and it's like worry and stuff.
Yeah, it's like if you've got like a sore throat or something and you see an advert for throat cancer and you're like, you stop thinking that it's just a sore throat and you Google it and it's like, it's definitely throat cancer.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, I'm not long for this world. And it's just a sore throat.
It's human nature to jump to the worst possible conclusion.
Yeah.
So on the 21st of April, she actually followed through. She visited the doctor and had blood tests run. Now, just after that visit, Robin went to see Hoffman, and later that night, she killed herself with a .38 revolver.
Oof.
Yeah, so timeline.
So she didn't even get the blood test back?
No, they did come back as negative for anything. Of
course they did.
So she was fine. So she went to the doctors, went to tell Hoffman about it, went home and killed herself. So I'm not accusing anyone, but it's a coincidence.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one. Don't believe in coincidence.
No. And 2 months earlier, Sandy had changed her will, and Hoffman walked away with the lion's share of her estate.
Of course she did.
Sandy's suicide letter read, "I am apologising to Terri 3,000 times a week on all levels of my being for the highly offensive, rude and vulgar comments made to her last week. I love her dearly and beg her forgiveness someday."
Do we know what the highly rude and vulgar comments were? I'm intrigued.
No, so basically her non-physical bodies had made these highly rude and vulgar comments to her. It wasn't actually Sandy, because Sandy loved her as she did, but because she had bad juju, according to Hoffman, these things were around her and they were affecting everyone. So she didn't even know what she fucking said to her, because she didn't say anything to her.
And I feel like knowing Terri, it was just, that t-shirt is awful.
It could have been the smallest thing, and then, like me.
Oh, Terri had so many issues.
Yeah. So the next member of the cult to die was Mary Levinson. Mary was a new member to the movement, only joining in 1987 after the group had set up shop in Illinois. Now, Mary was already troubled before she joined the cult. She'd made more than half a dozen attempts on her life in her 33 years. But her name was synonymous in the Chicago area, as her grandfather had set up 13 men's clothing stores. So
she was her family was minted.
She had a little bit of money behind her. Now, again, Mary became obsessed with Hoffman, and even though she had only met her twice, because Hoffman was adverse to travelling, she didn't like travelling out of the Dallas area, Mary would have weekly consultations via phone. Now, these meant so much to Mary and were so secretive. If someone was in the apartment, even her mother, when Hoffman rang, they would get sent outside, and they couldn't be in the apartment to listen to what was discussed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she clearly, like, deep down then knew that something wasn't quite right, because she didn't want her family to hear what was going on, like for them to talk her out of it. She must have known somewhere subliminally that wasn't right.
Yeah, maybe she knew deep down that it was bullshit, but maybe again Hoffman was trying to say only you can know this because they've not bought any of my jewellery. They cannot be part of
True,
our
yeah.
special circle. You have to pay to get in, like Scientology. You have to pay to get in and get ahead. So on the November the 10th, 1987, Mary Levinson was found deceased in a suburban Chicago motel room. Even though there were almost 100 pills found in the room, and the autopsy did say that she had died of an overdose of 2 drugs, there was a small puncture mark on her left wrist. She told the family via a pre-recorded video that was also found in the room that she had recently received $125,000 divorce settlement, but she'd use this to pay off minor debts and donate to charity. Her family also discovered that her mother's credit card had been used to buy $3,200 worth of jewellery, but like the divorce settlement, these items could not be traced in her estate and her will.
So clearly, all these people that are buying all the jewellery, they just keep buying the same jewellery because Terry's like, can reuse that, saves me making some more.
Exactly. It's like the South Park Gold for Cash for Gold episode. Do you know? It's just like it's a big recycling circle here. Now, Mary's death was ruled a suicide, and the beneficiary of her life insurance was her boyfriend, who was a Dr. Keyes. Now, he'd only been a boyfriend with her for a few months. He'd only actually met her family once, and that went badly, as when Mary tried talking to her brother about how great the cult was, her mother told her to back off. It's 4th of July, we're all just having fun. And Mary saw her ass, and they both left.
So she's left everything to this boyfriend who she's known for 5 minutes.
Yes, and coincidentally, they met at a meeting of Conscious Mind and Development.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah. Now, the next person to be associated with the cult was Charles Southern Jr., who was also from Chicago. He would disappear in December of 1987. Now, that was a great year for Hoffman and her earnings, to be quite honest with you. Now, Charles, again, was highly educated. He was an English professor that had joined the cult in the first few months that it was set up in Chicago. He quickly became a rising star, maybe due to his intelligence, but he had a presence because he was a professor. Obviously, he was a teacher, so maybe he was leading classes and showing people, but he would visit Hoffman in her home in Dallas. Later in the year, in 1987, he was found wandering the streets, though. He was speaking incoherently, and his family hospitalised him quite quickly because obviously they didn't know. He was also speaking in tongues. They didn't know what he was saying. He was just speaking random stuff that they didn't have any idea. Now, interestingly enough, while he was in the hospital, he was visited by 2 members of the cult daily. Now, after his recovery, he was disenfranchised with the cult and he wanted to make a trip to India. He'd been there before. He visited India before and he found it peaceful and he just wanted to go back. Now, he said this was a holiday, but he said to his mum he just wanted to try and distance himself from the cult for a bit and try and get his own headspace.
It's not going to go down well.
Yeah, it didn't. 3 days before the trip, he spoke to his mother, assuring her he was fine and he was looking forward to the upcoming trip. Now, he was only supposed to be away for 2 weeks, but after not hearing from Charles a couple of days after he was scheduled to be back, his parents drove 300 miles from Cincinnati to Chicago to see if he had arrived back. They broke into his apartment. They found his passport had not had any recent entry stamps into India, so he'd not been on holiday. And they also found his clothes folded on a ceremonial stool that signified, in Nigerian culture, that this was a symbol of death.
Oof.
Now, 2 notes that were barely legible named Hoffman as the executor of his will.
Of course they did.
Yeah. Now, this is still a missing person case, and because it's a missing persons case, it's not been closed. And today, Charles would be 75 years old if he was still alive.
Yeah, I don't think he's missing.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, but I feel like he's not alive.
Yeah, he's not walking around, let's put it that way.
No.
So, 4 more to go.
Jesus Christ.
And the next one
Ooh.
is a doozy. Don Hoffman. Now, guess where Terri gets her surname from?
Oh, okay.
Had been...
Is he husband number 5?
This is husband number 4.
Number 4. We're on 4.
We're on
yes,
4.
Okay.
Husband counter.
Okay.
4. So...
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Hoffman... Open. So
That's another can open there, isn't it?
It is. I need it. You should have seen the amount I went through writing it. God damn. And you'll understand after I get this sentence out.
Okay.
Don Hoffman had been a member of the cult since 1974. So had his wife, Alice.
Okay. Didn't see that one coming. Which is weird, because we've had this before already, haven't we?
Yes, it gets better. In 1980, Don and Alice divorced after 22 years, and Alice signed a waiver that allowed Don to remarry without waiting the usual waiting period. Now, this waiting period was a day.
Wow.
So, Hoffman could not be fucking arsed waiting a day after their divorce to marry Don Hoffman.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, one day, she could have just taken herself shopping.
Yeah.
Made some jewellery. Watch some Netflix and chill. I don't know. Maybe it's not Netflix and chill. Maybe get yourself a Blockbuster. I don't know.
Go to the drive-in. Jesus, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Loads of
One
stuff
day.
to do.
Jesus.
It's interesting to know she had only been divorced a month from her third husband, Ben Johnson, at this point.
Of course she had.
She'd been married to him for a grand total of 3 years.
Do you think after you've maybe hit I don't know, 4 husbands, that there's something that should be written into the law that goes, you have to be investigated?
Yeah, I mean, when they're dying in circumstances, yeah. But even if they're not, it's just like, are you sure you want to do this? Because your track record isn't great.
It's not great, yeah.
We stopped Ross Geller after 3. Come on, do you know?
Pivot.
Now, even though Hoffman had been decreasing the amount of years she'd been married to husbands, with Don, she actually stayed with him for 8 years.
Impressive. I mean, not, but for her.
Yeah. Now, Don committed suicide at a Marriott hotel by taking an overdose.
Well, that says wonders for Terri, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, this was actually reported in the newspaper, and people started scratching heads and chins and going, maybe there's something similar to the death of Hoffman's second husband, Glenn Cooley. And
Yeah, right.
newspaper articles led with the reason that it bore chilling similarities to both deaths. But, again, in video messages that Don left, he claimed to have cancer that was inoperable, and that was his main reason to die.
But did he follow the theme and not actually go and see a real doctor? Terri was just like, yeah, the people on the other plane of existence have told me that you got cancer. It's inoperable. I'm very sorry to tell you this, but It's not in good.
So basically, yeah, the Mexican doctor that they had who can read over cosmic airwaves seems to be really shit. But
Let me just WhatsApp call this doctor that's not a doctor that I have on hand to diagnose whether you've got terminal cancer or not over the phone.
yeah, you may as well use WebMD, and then you know what I mean.
It's always cancer.
Yeah.
It's always cancer.
So,
Definitely cancer.
That's 2 weeks to live. What are you doing on the internet? Get out, go touch some grass. But Don did actually state that he had seen 3 doctors and they had all diagnosed him. Yet, during the autopsy, no cancer was found.
What a surprise. Well, I suspect they were probably all doctors that Terry recommended.
Yeah. So...
Probably just people down the pub that she give 20 quid to.
Well...
I'll give you 20 quid, will you tell my husband this?
Yeah. Hoffman tried to claim to Don's son that a spiritual master in the ethereal realm told her that what Don had was definitely cancer.
And you definitely don't want to... It's terminal. You're going to die and you're thinking, it's probably best that I don't go out, like, terminally ill. I'm just going to end my own life and go out when I choose. But I could do with a second medical opinion.
Yeah.
Just on the off chance. You just never know. You know.
Even if it's Doogie Howser, he had a fucking MD. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come on. Apparently...
If Dave said to me, you're terminally ill and you're going to die, I'd just tell him to fuck off.
Yeah.
And I'd go to the doctors.
Yeah, you'd be like, no, don't care. I always make that
Are you a
smell in the
doctor?
bathroom. That's nothing to do with anything. So, what Hoffman tried to claim was that the Black Lords were trying to create an illusion so that the medical examiner wouldn't find cancer. Now, this would impact the cult and it would hurt them more because Don's saying he's got cancer, but then the medical people don't believe him because the Black Lords have created this mirage that... But he didn't just have it. Hoffman told him to kill himself.
But on what planet in court did she think that would hold up? Like, well, the Dark Lords created an illusion, so he did have cancer, but they created this illusion so that nobody can see. On this plane, you can't see. If you were on their plane, honestly, he's like covered in guns. She's got that much cancer, but on this plane, no one can see. The judge would be just like, just take her away, put her in an orange jumpsuit and some handcuffs, and tell her to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I mean, it is the 80s, so everything's wild back then, but even still, it's like...
This is a bit much for even then.
It's still pushing it.
Yeah.
Again, Hoffman was quids in, with Don Hoffman leaving everything to her, but Don's children filed a lawsuit disputing the will. Now, James Barklow, who was the lawyer that represented Sandy Cleaver, her brother, in the first when he contested the will, he was again representing this family, and the issue was that they contended that Terri Hoffman used hypnosis to persuade their father to kill himself. Now, unfortunately, as much as anyone listening to this, anyone watching this can see how manipulative Hoffman was, a district attorney would later say it would be difficult to determine if mind control could legally be a contributing factor to death.
I mean, to be fair, she didn't really even have to... She didn't really have to hypnotise him. If they've been together 8 years, like, you're inclined to listen to somebody you've been with for that long. Like, not to the point where you kill yourself.
No.
You're inclined to listen to somebody and to not kind of second guess them over that length of time. Do you know what I mean?
But again...
It doesn't need to be hypnosis. It's just, I trust this person because I've been with them for 8 years.
Exactly. And she has been accused in the past of Pavlovian training. So, do you know what? There may be some kind of thing she's doing in the background. It's like, you've seen Big Bang when Sheldon tries to, like, teach Penny not to be so loud, and every time she does something good, he gives her a treat. Hoffman could just be doing that behind closed doors, and it's kind of conditioning, and then that sticks with you. So, So that was him. Then 4 days after Don's death, another member of the cult was found dead. This
I
time...
thought you were going to say she got married.
No. She did. But not 4 days after, but she got married later. But this time, the cause wasn't suicide. Now, this was Jill Bounds, and she started dabbling with the cult in 1973. And by 1979, she was described as being deeply involved with Hoffman. Now, Jill was another highly intelligent person. She was a popular psychologist, but even she bought the juju that Hoffman was selling. Although, by 1982, she left the group due to all the bad publicity, because the deaths and
Lots
everything.
of people keep dying around this cult.
Yeah.
This little club I'm in.
Yeah. Jill didn't just walk away, though. She would later describe Hoffman as a witch, and that's in the old sense of the word, like hubble bubble, toil and trouble.
Oh no, she's not a bitch, she's an actual witch.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, in the old sense of the word. Like, she must have
Alright.
seen a fucking mixing pot or something like that. But even though she said that, she also thought that Hoffman had sent a plague of cockroaches to infest her house.
She just had a skanky house.
So, yeah. Now, despite of all this and the fact that she actually told friends and family that she was scared of Hoffman, Jill visited Hoffman in early 1988. Later on, September 20th, 1988, Jill was fatally attacked in her home. A window, one of only 3 not hooked up to the security system, was left open and the killer gained entry. Now, Jill's family would contest that to take that window out and to try and get through that window would have caused substantial noise, and they speculated that it was opened from the inside to make it look.
I was going to say, okay, so my entire house is security rigged. It's not, but if it was, and there was 3 windows in the whole house that weren't rigged, those are the 3 windows I absolutely would never be opening.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And you wouldn't be telling anyone about them, would you?
No.
Really? It's not something you bring up in conversation. Oh, yeah, weather's nice. By the way, I've got 3 windows that I've not rigged up to my security system, so if you want to pop over at 3 a.m. in the morning...
And why? Why would you not just rig them all?
I don't know what's wrong with that. Maybe
I don't understand the logic behind that.
Maybe she changed the window and it hadn't gone on to the security system. I don't know how.
Aren't they just them little plastic detectors that are on the windows? They detect when the window is actually open.
Yeah.
It's like a sensor.
So
you just take it off the old window and you put it on the new one.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't know how true that is or whether it's just been put in for good copy, but the killer also ripped out several pages of her diary that was dated 1979, which is when she was heavily involved in the cult.
That's weird, right? Just some rando killer that just burgled her house on the off chance and happened to know which windows weren't broken, and also decided to have a go through a diary and just rip out random pages.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then...
Oh no.
It just keeps going.
And then...
A member of the cult, in fact, a couple of members of the cult had an alarm code, but one particular member asked Jill's sister if she knew who the beneficiary of Jill's life insurance policy was.
I hope Jill's sister was like, well, that's a bizarre question.
Yeah, like... Can you just come to the police station and ask me that in front of them, please? Because that's weird.
That's a strange question to ask me. Incidentally, I don't know, but why do you want to know?
Yeah.
But there's so many fucking...
Yeah.
There's so
So
you're making me angry with this story.
It's seriously, it's horrible. Now, these are the 2 last ones that are attributed to Hoffman's cult, and these are David and Glenda Goodman. Now, again, David was highly educated. He was a Berkeley and Yale alumni. He was a tenured professor by the age of 32. He couldn't get sacked from being a professor. He had a job for life at the age of 32.
Just because someone's got the smarts don't mean they've got the common sense, eh?
Exactly. I suppose so. I mean, he'd also created a complex computer-tested formula for picking stocks. Now, this produced constantly high returns, and he would charge a lot of money to have access to this data, which people made a lot of money off, and so did he, and he retired from teaching. Now, this didn't help. All the money that he made didn't help with his first marriage. His wife left him and she took his 2 children across the country. Now, David was heartbroken by this and he fell into a depression, with people at work describing him as kind of like a changed man after this incident. Now,
as you would be.
Exactly. And again, when this kind of thing happens, he tried to find solace in religion, but normal religion couldn't get him over his pain, so he signed up with Hoffman and her wacky outlaws for counselling sessions.
To be fair, ordinary religion is just as crazy as Terry's religion.
Exactly, and I mean, at least Hoffman matched him up with 2 marriages to 20-year-olds.
Real 20-year-olds, though?
Yeah, they were real in the
so,
flesh.
Yeah. Okay.
They didn't last long.
Something, I suppose.
Yeah, they didn't last long. But in 1984, he met Glenda at a meeting and he had found his soulmate. Now, that's whether I don't know if that's him saying that or if Hoffman had declared that the 2 were soulmates, because only she knew who soulmates were. Don't know.
Do we know how old he was at this time?
So this is an age-appropriate relationship. So he's about 38 and I think Glenda's about 35. At this point.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay.
But he was when he was with the 20-year-olds, he was late 30s. So
okay.
Yeah, and then this was
creepy, but
exactly. It's not terrible, but
Catherine Zeta-Jones gets away with it, so it's not too bad.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
How old is Michael Douglas? About 207.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a crypt keeper, isn't he?
He's 100% a crypt keeper.
So David thought they were soulmates, and Glenda was really maybe she didn't think they were soulmates, but she had a bond, and this was strengthened with Hoffman telling him that they had been married in many previous lifetimes.
Oh, so hell's bells. Don't bring bloody reincarnation into this.
They were meant to be together because they'd been together before in the past. Now, even though the families, both of Glenda's and David's families, they were really happy for them, they saw them getting on well, the couple began to distance themselves from friends and family. Glenda's daughters from a previous marriage were sent to live with their father, and they could only visit for 2 weeks in the summer.
Wow.
David went on to call them a distraction. Now,
for him or for her?
Well, now, whether that's for their cultish stuff or whether he was a bit... I've dated 20-year-olds. Mm-hmm. See what a younger model is?
Yeah.
But by late 1988, David has told his own family that he couldn't communicate with them anymore, and he went no contact. During the next 2 years, they, believe it or not, lavished expensive gifts on Hoffman. They bought her a brand new Lincoln Continental, a 2-bedroom house, gave her £5,000, and 50% of everything ever more. Don't know what that means, but yeah.
I just don't know what possesses people to do this. I can understand if you're single and you're lonely and like she's all you've got, like, but if you're married and you're in a relationship with who you deem is your soulmate, you surely don't need for anything else. Surely you want to leave everything else to your soulmate.
them,
you don't leave it to some rando person you hang out with all the time.
Yeah, just in case something happens to you, you don't want them going on, living without a financial backing.
Yeah.
But maybe they knew
what's wrong with these
what
people
was coming up. According to their banking records, they gave over $110,000 to Hoffman between 1987 and 1988.
In the 80s, $100,000?
Yeah.
Ooh.
In January 1990, the Goodmans were found shot to death at home. They had been dead for over a month before they were found, and the authorities declared it was a double suicide.
Well, at least they didn't say it was a homicide, and it was because they had left them 3 windows open that they didn't have rigged up to the security system.
Indeed. At least they
it was more or less believable.
Open and shut like that. We don't need to investigate this. Fuck it.
Yeah.
In 1994, after a 4-year investigation, prosecutors couldn't find any evidence that Hoffman was involved in any wrongdoing in any of the deaths that she was clearly fucking responsible for.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, I mean, there's blind men that could see evidence in this.
You know Professor Layton? And the kids that do the Professor Layton games.
Yeah.
Those fucking kids could have worked this out by now.
Yeah.
The 3-year-olds that play Cluedo could have worked this out by now.
Yeah, this isn't even it's not even a whodunit. It's a she done it. Like,
if Agatha Christie wrote this, people would have said it was a shit book.
Yeah. So
no thought work involved whatsoever.
Evidence everywhere.
Plain and cut.
And we can see
from day dot, from page 1.
Yeah.
We know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, the good news, if there is any good news in this, is Hoffman was sentenced to 16 months in prison for bankruptcy fraud.
16 months?
Yeah. Now, that's the only jail time she did. She declared bankruptcy in 1990, conveniently enough after this investigation started into her wrongdoings. And only 2 years previously, she has received £110,000 from 2 people. So she's not bankrupt.
She dumped it in an offshore bank.
Exactly. She did. In 1994, she served 1 year of that 16 year. So she did do jail time. Not enough. I completely understand that.
For 1 year?
Yeah, and she wasn't held accountable for the crimes that she allegedly committed.
But you know how, when I've never been in jail, so I don't know. And I know you've never been in jail, so you don't know. But, just from, watching documentaries and TV and stuff, when you go to jail, there's a pecking order, isn't there?
Yeah.
So, depending on what you do and how bad whatever it is that you've done is, you get the shit kicked out of you and your life is hell. Your life is probably next to fuck all any different when you declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So, it was probably just 3 square meals a day and that's it.
Yeah, I'm going to say
time.
She weren't put in a Category A prison. It was probably an open prison where she could come and go as she pleased. It's not a major crime.
She won't have got beaten up or it wouldn't have been hell on earth for her for going into prison declaring bankruptcy. It's not like she was a child murderer or she was a, whatever.
Yeah. But even when she went in, she could have just said, "Yeah, I'm in for bankruptcy." It's not I'm in for killing 10 people as a cult leader. She never admits that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So she was released in 1991, and in 2002 she would marry her 5th and final husband, Roger Keenely, and amazingly enough, he was the one that outlived her, as Hoffman died in 2015.
So this is really, really recent.
Yeah.
I was thinking somebody's finished her off, someone's bumped her off, or she's topped herself because
no,
she can't live with this. No, she actually just lived out a long time.
Yeah, she lived a grand old life. She was 70.
What a bitch.
Yeah. She was born in 1938 and she lived to 2015. So she was 70 plus before she died. and she had all the trappings of pretty much a multi-million lifestyle throughout.
What a skanky old conniving bitch.
Yeah, she was. And I'm not... This is... It was a rabbit hole. You just look at one thing, and literally, I thought, I'll get that smashed out. 40 minutes, easy. And then you open something, and you look into that, and you go there, and it just keeps going and go. As all cults probably do. But the scale of this is just... And nobody in authority went, maybe we should look into her a little bit and maybe limit her contact with vulnerable people.
This is absolutely batshit crazy how... I just think even if you're not familiar with true crime, you're not familiar with cults or anything, this is the first story anybody has ever told you in your adult life, you'd be scratching your head and you'd be like, well, this is really suspect. Like, she's clearly got some sort of involvement in all of it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to put this together.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
No, you'd be like, no, Hans Christian Andersen wrote this, surely, because this is non-fiction. This didn't happen. This couldn't have happened because we have checks and balances in place to stop this shit from happening. But we don't.
Maybe that was her backup plan, was if it didn't wash, like the bankruptcy thing didn't wash, and they were like, no, check her offshore accounts and do it now. This bitch be playing us. There's something wrong here. She would go, well, Hans Christian Andersen wrote this whole thing actually, but he did it on another plane of existence, and he's trying to frame me basically from the other side. But you guys can't see him, so you don't know this. But it's all for real. It's definitely true.
He stood right here. He's telling me now.
He's got buns for days.
Yeah, I'll tell you. But give him a Bible. He'll swear on it.
I just don't get it. I don't understand how it...
I mean, I'm not... Like, I've read about Jonestown, and I've read about... You know, like, cults. Read about cults like the I'm going to say the Ant-Man cult, but that isn't it. The Ant Kids cult.
Mm-hmm.
You know about manipulating behaviour and how people can dominate someone and make them believe into something. But this wasn't even that. This was just someone getting someone into a position where they would happily kill themselves and hand over all their money. This was just a money-making exercise. This isn't about power and domination. This is about, money. I need a new car.
Yeah.
Who can I kill today? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. This is all it is about. And how...
But if you think about it, that's how H.H. Holmes was... You know, that's how he went on. He was all like, it was just the money and people... And then he didn't even get... He wasn't even originally like arrested for killing anybody. It was for like horse theft or something, wasn't it? So it's the same kind of thing. It's like, how can you not see what is going on? What are you, blind?
Yeah.
It's so obvious.
I mean...
And I know hindsight's a great thing, but still, it's so obvious even without hindsight.
Oh, no, yeah. And Holmes has the excuse of, it was 150 fucking years ago. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
DNA, like, fingerprints weren't a thing when Holmes was doing his shit. Like, it must have been crawling with forensics and evidence in there.
And since you would have thought they'd have been more suspicious of all the cults and stuff, because like the 60s was the Manson era, so why were they not kind of going, cults though, let's just look into this, because cults is dodgy. It's dodgy business cults, and she could be proper sus. Like, how am I?
Yeah, they had warnings, and I don't know, and it is just a horrible story. And
I hate that she had a happy ending.
Yeah, she lived that life.
And Google Bard as well.
Yeah. See, maybe it is true.
Maybe Google Bard does know. Yeah. Terri Hoffman, you're a strong, independent, dominant woman, and you will make it through this.
Yeah. She fucking did.
She did. She did.
Yeah. And on that bombshell, this has been the MO podcast with me, Conservation Sam.
And me, a very fucking angry Atreya.
Thank you all so much, and we shall see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast.